Voices of the underground coming on the rebound. Lisa,
Jane, Gina,
Catherine, Yasmin, Naomie. Voices of the underground coming on the rebound, yeah. We got voices. We got voices.
As I await my course, I'm standing adjacent to the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. Ah, there you are.
I'm so sorry. I got caught up off camera in a conversation. Somebody was asking me, why is it that we named the series Poetry Live Voices of the Underground?
And what did you say? I hope we're on the same page here.
I think we're definitely on the same page. You see, we named it Poetry Live Voices of the Underground because the term, the concept of it is the refers to the beat, the pulse of the movement within the city of Castries.
Go on.
When one looks at the city of Castries, it's all concrete, ruggedness, hustle, and a sense of conformity. Yet creativity breaks through that concrete into the rhythm of life that underscores what is anti-establishment. So it's commentary of the poet, you know, that is free and pushes against the stereotype of what is mundane, capturing sounds and beauty and voices of people, making a statement that all life is significant.
It is that creativity that exists around Castries. I remember a few years ago, some guys opposite Dilly's supermarket, these guys were rapping and so on a rhythm. You see, it was that truthfulness and
full of energy, an energy type of a vibe, juxtaposed against the sound of horns and trucks and vendors selling goods using hook phrases such as "Simos, call Simos."
Hey, let's play a game.
Okay.
Let's see how many of these hook phrases you remember.
Okay, let's start.
Tamados, 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 tamados.
Toilet paper, toilet paper.
Glococo, resechel. Potong ni mala, maka deshi we. Yeah, we free nil.
Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Voices of the underground coming on the rebound.
Lucelec's Rodney Bay office is now open, but we are still available to serve you remotely. Call or send a WhatsApp message to 285-6796, 285-7859, 285-3593, or 285-3329. Or send an email to customersupport@lucelec.com for assistance. Call 457-4433 to get bill balances. Use our free online service at myaccount.lucelec.com for detailed account information and online bill payments through your bank. Customers may also take advantage of ShorePay's online or walk-in service. Lucelec encourages you to practice social distancing. Stay home, stay safe.
Souvenirs at Island Gallery Shops, local cuisine at Oasis Food Court. Come upstairs, walk the strip for the best services at your fingertips. Caribbean Rum Shack, Perfumery, and more. At the J.Q. Rodney Bay Mall, we've got it all. Shopping design with you in mind.
shopping design with you in mind.
1, 2, mic check. Voices of the underground coming from the
Still celebrating after my win.
Felicidades, campeón.
Merci beaucoup, madam. What street are we on? Labrie Street?
Yes, actually, Labrie Street. It was named in honor of Baron de Labrie, who was the governor of St. Lucia during the period of 1784 to 1789.
You realize that we left our viewers in suspense as to who the feature poet is for this episode.
So should we tell them now?
We should give them a hint.
Okay, since you like games, let's play a little game. She's the daughter of a St. Lucian politician, the Honorable ... SLC, and her mother was a retired attorney at law.
She obtained 2 masters, one in English literature with honors, and the other interdisciplinary gender studies with a distinction.
I must say, just like her father, she had a keen interest in politics, particularly women in politics, as she is an advocate for women's empowerment and gender relations, like our poet from Tragedy and Triumph, Stacey Ann Chin.
In the balance of human biology, all bodies are created equal. Everybody's about 70% water, regardless of race, religion, gender, sex, or sexual orientation. We all die after about 7 days without drink.
Stacey Ann Chin cannot be summed into solely a poet or writer. Her career as an artist is diverse in more ways than one. She does not limit herself to just poetry and does not limit her work, but rather allows it to be, like her, representative of different communities and aspects of life. She is an Afro-Jamaican Chinese spoken word poet and activist. She was born on December 25, 1972, Lottery, Jamaica, on Christmas Day. With her Chinese Jamaican father not being in the picture and her Afro-Jamaican mother fleeing the country to Canada, she was left to be raised by her grandmother with her older brother Delano. At the age of 9, her mother returned to reclaim Chin and her brother. Unfortunately, this does not bring the stable home environment that childhood demands, as she moved back and forth between relatives' homes and boarding school. After high school, she moved on to university and began the transition into a young adult. However, this transition is made nearly impossible for Chin when she realizes that she is a lesbian. A scary realization in a homophobic environment like the Caribbean, and even more so, Jamaica. Sadly, Chin experiences heinous trauma after coming out when she is assaulted on campus by 12 boys.
I think coming to a new country is always...
After this horrific incident, Chin moves to New York and starts a new life.
If only out of vanity I have wondered what kind of woman I will be when I am well past the summer of my raging youth. Will I still be raising revolutionary flags and making impassioned speeches that stir up anger in the hearts of pseudo-liberals dressed in navy blue conservative wear?
It is here, in a Manhattan cafe she frequented, that her poetry career begins to take off. From very early in the game, her poetry is explosive and confrontational.
Being queer has no bearing on race, my white publicist says. True love is never affected by color.
Her performance poetry and captivating story puts her on the map in New York City, and her list of accomplishments and experience grows rapidly. Chin performs in and co-writes Russell Simmons' Deaf Poetry Jam on Broadway, appears on off-Broadway one-woman shows, and at the New Yorkan Poets Cafe. She also wins many poetry slams, such as the 1999 Chicago People of Color Slam. Her poetry books and anthologies include Wildcat Women and featured Skyscrapers, Taxis and Tampons, Poetry Slam, Roll Call, and Cultural Studies, Critical Methodologies. She has 2 books, her autobiographical novel, The Other Side of Paradise, a memoir, 2010, and her first collection of poetry, Crossfire, a litany for survival. Her memoir opens the world to the pain and tragedy behind the fiery essence that is Stacey Ann Chin. It takes us through the struggle of a young LGBTQ woman being rejected by society, family, race, a narrative not heard often enough.
It is now commonplace to hear young activists say the terms black and lesbian and political come across as confrontational.
Chin has made it clear throughout her career that she is and will always be unapologetically herself, both in her daily existence and through her work. She gives a voice to many of the voiceless, especially the LGBTQ plus community. Activism has become a part of her legacy, and she is recognized just as much for this as for her creative talent.
I didn't have a family. My mother left when I was born.
Using the pain and trauma of her past, not only shape her own future, but reach out to others in similar situations and help them pull out
of such struggles as well.
The kind of normal connections that people have in their life with their core family, the group of people who, change the diapers and put band-aids over your cuts and, feed you and put you to bed at night and teach you how to tie your shoelaces. I don't know if I can say that I had those people.
We got voices, yeah. Poetry.
Stacey Ann Chin, she's such a strong advocate for gender issues.
She doesn't mince words. She says it as it is. Now, do you want to reveal who our featured poet is?
No, I want to give a clue. Forward ever, backward never.
Yeah, but that's her father. In her own right, she has developed a reputation for being a critical thinker. She is a St. Lucia MNC Fine Arts Award recipient for literary arts submissions of creative journalism.
I am sure you are figuring it out by now, but before we reveal who it is time to analyze the music of Afro Allen, Life Sweet. There is a use of end rhymes in Life Sweet to maintain the upbeat rhythm of the song. For example, creating rhyme scheme with pairs of words, negativity, mentally, a me, we. By doing this, the artist encourages an appreciation for being alive and well, the motivation on celebration as he makes an appeal at the community level when he says everybody. He advises everyone to put aside the stresses of life, critics, and all negative influences to concentrate on having a good time and making the best of life that is given. He uses the informal local vernacular to appeal to his audience. There is the repetition of certain phrases, life sweet, hands up, to encourage the attitude he promotes.
Life sweet. Oh, 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 oh. Let me hear you say, oh, 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 oh. Life sweet. Oh, 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 oh. Let me see your hands up and let your stresses go. Everybody hands up. Now it's party time for sure. 'Cause life's sweet, just live the life you love and love the life you live. Let's make the best of it.
Life sweet, huh?
Mais oui, la vie doux. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Voices from the underground.
Coming on the rebound.
Lucelec's Brough Bay office is now open, but we are still available to serve you remotely. Call or send a WhatsApp message to 285-6796, 285-7859, 285-3593, or 285-3329. Or send an email to customersupport@lucelec.com for assistance. Call 457-4433 to get bill balances. Use our free online service at myaccount.lucelec.com for detailed account information and online bill payments through your bank. Customers may also take advantage of ShorePay's online or walk-in service. Lucelec encourages you to practice social distancing. Stay home, stay safe.
CDF is both a champion for cultural preservation and development change agent. Established in April 2002 by the CDF Act of 2000 as the agency responsible to align the aspirations of cultural and creative individuals, groups, communities, policymakers, and civil society through the implementation of the National Cultural Policy of St. Lucia, we envision a strong, united and proud St. Lucian community empowered by culture and creativity. For more information on how you can partner with CDF on some of our projects and efforts, go to cdfstlucia.org or contact Cultural Development Foundation, Barnard Hill, Castries, PO Box CP5405, call us at 457-9021 or send us a fax at 459-0615. Email us at info@cdfstlucia.org.
1, 2, mic check.
Welcome back. Bienvenue.
And now it's time to announce our feature poet.
She lives here.
And where is here? Washington, D.C.
Drum roll, please.
Yasmin Sulita Odlam.
You no longer live in St. Lucia and the region. Does your writing echo a Caribbean experience, or are you writing from a position of an exile writer?
I have been in the United States for 21 years now. And when I got here, divorced from the umbilicus of social and cultural influences of St. Lucia, my poetry began to dry up. Firstly, my beloved cousin and friend Eva Odlam died tragically a mere 3 weeks after I arrived in Washington, D.C. And that shifted my foundation for a couple years. I could not write poetry more than a few spurts at a time, and I thought that I had indeed lost the gift. In fact, I stopped writing entirely after the second soul-jarring and ugly death of my father, Brother George. With this second death, I went fully into emotional exile and operated from behind a type of plexiglass. My daughter, Yoshi, who I often refer to as Soul Fruit, was born during this tumultuous time. And in many ways, she was the lifeline I needed in my time of flatlining. Within the last 3 years, after co-authoring with my lifelong friend Barbara Jacob Small, Running in Heels, Women in Politics in St. Lucia, the poetry came back, and it came back in full spate.
In your poetry, the themes of gender and relationships seem to be a constant. What informs this tapestry in your work?
My life purpose has been about exploring the dimensions of love. In that regard, the spectrum of human relationships in all of their curious permutations has fascinated me no end, from academia to aesthetics and even to the polemics of my own life as a woman and a writer. The construct of gender was the intellectual and political framework of most of my life, and I still work in the field. So right now I'm enjoying the deconstructing of gender from its binary context, and how now, we have so many different ways, a kaleidoscope almost, of ways in which we refer to gender, and how we pull these all together to have a much more humane society.
What is your creative process like, and what spaces inspire you?
My creative process, it is as idiosyncratic as ever. In fact, it can spring quite unexpectedly and even chaotically at times. I've sometimes been in the middle of a work-related matter, very serious, very disciplined, because I tend to be a very disciplined person. Tediously so sometimes. And then all of a sudden, this lightning flash of insight comes in, like a piece of creative chaos into the order of my day, of my life. Then there are my daily rituals which feed into my creativity. I call them my God moments. I'm an early riser and I watch the sunrise most days, even in the winter, and if it moves me, I take a picture of the majesty in the artistry of God's sky. Then there are my solo early morning walks, or my lunchtime walkabouts, and my weekend hikes. All of these are part of a search for unique angles on life and humanity and communing with the Holy Spirit. Being landlocked as an island girl drives me to drive out to oases of inspiration, and that is in water, like the sea, the ocean, the lake, the river, the stream, even a puddle, and definitely rain and the occasional rainbow. I am also a strong believer in the power of erotic energy and its expression, and this has been a lifelong facet of my writing. The yin and yang of life and loving life and living life and loving through life and making love to life. You know, all of those, the whole rich interplay of that facet of my being, my passion as a woman.
After we spoke to Solitahe Odlum, I gathered that she writes from the Caribbean perspective.
Oh, that's interesting. In the diaspora, we have so many talented St. Lucians, and it's wonderful that Solitahe was able to share with us her poetry from overseas.
And now the performance of Solitahe Odlum.
Homebound, dedicated to a KO. The vision always came first, always would. And could I understand without flinching, without the pinched face and brittle tones? Every time the crunch came and punched a hole through the chipboard of my patience, the vision always came first. But that's what I really loved, your unrelenting drive to keep the world outside alive, your calling, now bittersweet, driving us apart on the inside. The vision always came first. Coveting even the minuscule crumbs, and our living was hard, marred as any piecemeal love, but tolerable, at least. A few broken vases, some jagged showers, making amends, making do, making love to get us through those fragile nights. Still, the vision always came first, even with the generous gift of forgiveness, even with our mellow made-up mornings, even with a weekend away, a negligee. But always, you must dash and disappear to make right the wrongs you didn't make, and I would trust nothing less. Man with a cause, because my mind comprehends even when my heart contracts. And the vision always came first, thirsty for you, bursting breathless into our space, leaving a mess behind, closed doors, and I know that you tried to live undivided, while I lived in division, lying to myself, lying next to you, and it was almost enough at times, just enough, the way it was. Until one day, I found myself homeless in our home. Nothing more to say, nothing more to heal, nothing more to feel, nowhere to hide in an ambivalent sky, just waiting and waiting and wanting the inevitable call to stall the inevitable. Pink glove for my precious peep heroes of the street. Folks see how hungry I be, then offer me a crumb. Fake enough to feel it really fills the gap, stops the gaping hole wider than the tears in my shirt, deeper than the stare in my eyes they avoid. Like I'm really so dumb, I can't feel how numb they are, accustomed to lowly scum, slowly disintegrating on life's uneven sidewalk. One more beaten bum, bumming humanity with a worn placard they disregard because they work hard for what they got. As I dry rot daily on the corner of nothing, with nothing and doing nothing to change my life and rearrange my lot. Invariably, the streetwalkers flee. But some stop and placate me with the least they can discard to get this retard off their radar, and I smell pity's perfume, pungent on their pretty hands, and held a little askance, so anonymous dirt ain't gonna contaminate what they feel they're worth. Eyes averted, so my distress won't cause no mess and incriminate them. Fake folk who don't get it, 'cause they got it and don't want to see just how pissed I be and want to bust a cuss in their complacency that completely ignores us, though we graphic as graffiti vomited on these city walls to violate their sense of decency. Only counterfeit peeps strutting staccato in the street can feel secure enough in their brand name stuff to pass a hand-me-down coffee cup and then look up to the lofty architecture to insulate them from deceit and insult those who sprout from the cracks in its concrete. You folk think my stink makes me too bummed out to see that the hand that thinks it feeds me is also guilty of breeding the same system that decries me and supports them and denies me a hand up in place of a handout. But today, I just grin and be grateful for my daily bread, daily dread like stale piss in a shameful corner of my heart, holding my wrath on lockdown, so I don't get caught unaware by your taut smiles and forget to skim and not frown at my earnings. But I will never forego this yearning for a world of real justice that really cares beyond mere spare change for us street heroes with itinerant zip codes. The hardcore few who abhor injustice and who ain't scared to rage against exploitation for excess in exchange for what is in everyone's best interest. As I sit here, half staring at your hasty exit, suddenly I see a tiny glove. Some loving soul stopped in its tracks to retrieve, instead of leaving it on the busy, dizzy street to be trampled by indifferent feet. It waves gaily in the wind, above a dull and dried up canal, a pink sheath on a pointed spear of the bridge's hard railing, and it becomes a handful of hope to ward away the base and banal dominating the street. A pink wave saved me from despair, made me forgive you even if you don't care. For now I see your charity comes from a place as empty as your eyes. So void, still avoiding me, too transfixed on some transient prize, that you pass by and miss something priceless as a pink glove protesting against indifference.
We got voices, yeah, poetry.
Now, if I try and interpret Homebound, my interpretation would be different from the audience's because poetry is so subjective. And you know what, Hanson? I think we should leave the interpretation of that particular poem to the audience.
I totally agree with you. And now we'll watch the final performance of Solitahe.
I don't want to be your wife. I don't want to be your wife. Because while you're out there making strides in the world on your ride to somewhere, I'm here, inside, pacing the floor, watching the door, wanting more than wondering where my world went to and left me behind. I don't want to be your wife. Because 9 times out of 10, I'll be watching our kids again, listening to the TV's drone, waiting for you to come home from the so-called office you've become married to. I don't want to be your wife. Last port of call as you flop into bed, resting your tired against my insomnia and thoughts about you I must censor, or I may forget and hammer your head along dead to the boredom in my face. I don't want to be your wife. And have to smile when you remember me with the consolation of red roses and quick kisses to draw me back, because you know you've been slack coming up short in the reckoning, so now you're beckoning me back with your usual tack. I don't want to be your wife. Have to make the world believe that nothing in me grieves for more than scaled down flight and wire mesh evenings going stir crazy in the kitchen, fixing things right but not fixing me. I don't want to be your wife. For the few fleeting nights you recall that my body had beauty and bounty to once enthrall you before it came maternal and quite dull. And just when I get to feeling a shiver, a sliver of how things used to be, and I start to rise in surprise on butterfly wings, you shudder, beat a hasty retreat, and leave me grasping nothing more than your nasty snores. I don't want to be your wife. Every day going through the ropes, then medicating on soaps to forget how our bubble burst and made me thirsty for something else. Now we've hit the worst, nagging through the nights, dragging through these days on the treadmill of years ahead, fearing this is all there is until death do us part, and wishing you a jump start as you disappear through that door. I don't want to be your wife. Crying out for another life, then escaping upscale to find retail on a platter, because if the price is right, it don't matter. Once my misery's minimized by maxing out your money, flattering myself while I tabulate the cost, but shattered inside for opportunities lost. And after you pick up the tab, later you'll grab and ride me roughshod just so I know who's really running this show? Oh, I don't want to be your wife.
counting the ways I could hate you. 'Cause I discounted my dreams and obliterated myself to become your helpmate, aborting any mission beyond this picket fence, for without your permission, it did not make sense. While all the while I envy your success bought at my expense, since I put my dreams to rest to be a mother who knows best. Hello? Hell no. I don't want to be your wife, but I'd surely love to be. And please don't visit me as you do right now. Somehow we'll share the kids and explain what we did and didn't do to make it through to the bitter end. So we'll split the home to leave me alone to find the woman I used to be, and hope that she has not quit on me. And I'll explain. It's been a drain pretending that this never-mending thing was the greatest love of all. Anyhow, after right now, I don't want to be your wife.
I realize in Solitahe's poetry, she speaks a lot about issues where women can relate to.
Yeah, but tell me you didn't thoroughly enjoy that poem, I Don't Want to Be Your Wife.
Next week, we'll showcase my favorite poet.
You mean the place where your favorite mango tree is?
Join us again for
Poetry Live, Voices of the Underground.
Voices from the underground.
Coming on the rebound.
The rebound sound.
We got voices.
Voices.
Better than the rest. We got voices. We got voices, yeah.
The rebound sound.
Poetry. 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 Poetry.